Right. Good to be here in person. So I just want to quickly introduce the panel we have up here. We have Caroline Baumann. She's the former director of the Cooper Hewitt Design Museum. Now she's an independent consultant and a co-founder of DID. We've got Eddie Opara as a multidisciplinary designer. He's a partner at the design firm Pentagram and a senior critic at the Yale University School of Art. And Rupal Parekh is a partner at the design and technology company Work & Co., where she leads marketing and product launches. It's a very impressive panel. You could start a museum with this, and I could be the intern there. I just want to start by saying something that everybody here probably knows, but it's worth saying. In the design industry, interior design, fashion, furniture design, graphic design, we do like to think of ourselves as an open and welcoming world, but it's not as diverse as it should be. The numbers aren't there, and so let's start there, Caroline. Tell us about what led to the formation of DID. Where are we right now?
Thank you, Fred, so much. And first of all, I have to say thank you all for being here. It feels wonderful and weird at the same time, not to have a mask on, but it feels so great to have a full room of people that love design, and just a huge thank you from the four of us on this important subject. We're really glad to have everybody here. So what is the DID Collaborative? Some of you may have seen the press. We went live in this past June. The Diversity in Design Collaborative is exactly that. Today, it is 20 design-centric companies with leaders who are authentically committed to design, the power of design as a change agent, and leaders who know the important role, the critical role of diversity for their businesses productivity, for their businesses innovation, but also for their businesses culture and attitude and morale of the staff. So a year ago, June, Andy Owen, who is the CEO of Herman Miller, reached out to me, but before she reached out to me, well before that, she was thinking a lot about this moment that we're living in, right? With the current fight against systemic racism and systemic injustice. So she was thinking about Herman Miller and their 100-year-plus tradition of serving humanity, and was thinking, what can we do for Herman Miller, but what can we do well beyond Herman Miller or Miller Knowles' walls? Right? So it was something, she was thinking about the industry. And that's also why she brought me in, to have someone from the external world, and obviously given my experience in trying to diversify the Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum over the years. So after several weeks of really thoughtful, often challenging conversation, we had a collective aha moment that this is not one company's fight, obviously, right? This is a national conversation, and needs to be an industry-wide collaboration, right? So inclusion from the start was the spirit of starting the DID Collaborative. And as we reached out to design companies who we knew were leading in this field and cared about this very, very deeply, the response was electric, right? And I have never seen this before. Company leaders were putting competition aside. No one asked me or the co-leader, Mary Stevens, who's the senior VP of special projects at Herman Miller. No one asked us, so who else is involved? Is there a competitor? It wasn't about that. It was about how can we come together and through the design lens really think about experimentation, what will work, what won't work. How do we light the pathways for Black designers and Black youth so that it is easier to understand that pathway to design education or to a design career. So why DID? Here's the situation today, which was the impetus also for the creation of the DID Collaborative. Eddie, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we forget is the aspect of what diversity is. What does it cover, right? how can it be an outreach to others? And, as a black designer and, as from my accent, you can tell I'm not from the United States, but I've been here for 25 years. It has been an exceptionally long road where I, for one, have tried to find where are the black designers. 3% of designers in the US are black. That is exceedingly low. Now, think about that who are in leadership. Think about that who are in school. Think about that who are pretty much trying to even be encouraged to go into this particular area. It's exceptionally limited, exceptionally limited. And so if you look at the diversity current state and the sort of breakdown, the 12% are sort of in the workforce, in different areas. We're not even talking about leadership here. The schools, 7.5. And remember, design is growing. There's a large growth birth that's occurring. And 7.5 there, 4.9 employed at this moment in time. That is significantly bad. Systemic issues are to blame. And if you really go to the solving this particular issue, these particular conditions, think about the UN Sustainable Goals, for example. And I'm not going to do a show of hands who knows those. There's 17 goals in total. They're all integrated to one another. A lot of people may think it's all about climate change. That's just one part of it. It's about poverty. It's about education and reduction in inequality and other areas as well. And they are all interconnected. And if they are all interconnected here, we could utilize that as a framework, as a blueprint to actually solving and gaining a better goal of equality. As you can see on the, I believe it's on the right-hand side, the idea of equal representation needs to actually occur. And to do that, we need more players in this field. We need an abundance of different organizations, companies, institutions, educational institutions to take this seriously for us to have a diverse world that we are all happy with.
Yeah. Rupal, I'm curious if you could weigh in. This is obviously a systemic issue. It's so big. There's no one reason for it. But I wonder if you could talk about, why are we here? It's 2021. This isn't new on some level. Why are these issues so pernicious and persistent? What?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Can you hear me? I think that's a great question. I think, so when I think about, Work & Co. is a digital design and development firm. So we're comparatively nascent in the design space. And one of the things that we've noticed, because as one of my partners says, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, those who've come before us in graphic design and architecture, in so many different design disciplines before us. But to have the connections and the links, our friends at Pentagram, our friends at so many different DID founding member companies, and we can get into a little bit of what we do later, but together, I think what we have been missing is a learning network and an ability to actually share where we're having successes when it comes to diversity, not just hiring, and this is really important, it's not just about hiring, it's also about retention, about mentorship, about keeping our talent really motivated, challenged, and pushing them into the leadership levels that we need. And unless we can talk about, and I think you see here some of our different focus areas, within the DID Collaborative, we actually look at the different places we can have impact and where our companies are excelling, and then sharing amongst each other where we're having success. So is that amongst youth? And are we exposing junior talent to the possibility of all these different design fields soon enough? And are we getting into diverse communities, diverse cities across the nation to do that? Obviously, collectively, we all are not enough. And that is something we can do together. And then HBCUs at the college level, are we really in touch in classrooms with talking to professors at career fairs, showing the opportunities that lie in all of the different design disciplines? And then lastly, when we get to the professional stage, when we get inside of all of our companies, what are we doing to retain and really foster talent to continue to move on and stay in this field? It's not enough to join a company. It's not enough to make the hire. How are we actually creating a long-term path for talent? And so this is, I think, what, going back to your question, I don't think we've had enough of a learning network and sharing of what we're learning in an open way and being able to lean on each other so that the full talent community benefits.
Right. I feel like, you have these efforts that are sort of scattershot. You have a scholarship here. Companies feel good about what they're doing. No one learns anything. The problem persists. So DID is a sort of a full court press is what you guys are going for. Could you talk a little bit more about, you launched with 20 companies. Tell us about them and what you ask of them to join and be part of this.
Absolutely. Rupal, I loved some of the words that you used because it is very much leaning on each other. And as we were talking to media in the spring about the launch of DID, they wanted to know, so what are you doing in each of these focus groups? And we kept reiterating that a great deal of this has been creating this ecosystem, right? And creating this network. And yes, some of the companies know each other, but not all of them. So there are 20 right now, and they transcend discipline. So it's interior design, fashion design, product design, you name it, they're part of DID. Once we went public, there were so many knocks on the door that it was quite incredible, right? So the hunger is there for a network like this. There's other great work going on across the nation, and we're not obviously competing with them, but joining with them, right? It's going to take all of us to diversify the design industry bit by bit. So what we did is we broke into committees. And again, I'm not being over-enthusiastic. I have never seen design leaders rolling up their sleeves in the same Zoom room and working as we've done over the last year and being really honest about, I don't know what to do here. We're losing black designers. How can we avoid that? And then another company that's had better success would exchange ideas. So these words, ecosystem, network, nothing like this has existed in the past, right? So 400 plus companies are now knocking on the door. We'll be announcing about 25 new members in the coming month, probably. We want to be careful as we scale this. For obvious reasons. We want to keep our focus on the work that we're doing. So we are working now on the inaugural DID Teen Design Fair that will be in Detroit, probably the first or second week in March. And the idea there is open the eyes of high schoolers, not about a design career, right? But about what is design. These kids don't know what design is, right? And many of their parents or caregivers are saying medicine, law. Oftentimes, design isn't in that list, right? So this is a bigger question of how do we impact the families and get the word beyond the students as well to encourage design education and design careers. So each of the DID founding members will be participating in that teen design fair in one way or another. What were the requirements for the founding members? It was really about two things. Values of the leadership of the company, values in believing in diversity, both inside the walls of the company and outside, and an action plan for DE&I that included things like we can't have unpaid internships anymore. And you may roll your eyes and say, well, of course, but you'd be surprised how many nonprofits and companies still have unpaid internships. And what does that result in? Oftentimes, a very undiverse group of interns, right? So that's been part of that. And then there's a governance committee as well that has been working on a code of conduct. Once a year, we'll be reviewing the members to make sure that everybody is engaged at a similar level and working towards the same goal of removing the obstacles or trying to remove the obstacles together to light that pathway to design education and design careers.
Yeah, one thing I want to bring up is, I wrote an article about DID for Business of Home when it first launched, and I'll admit when I talked about it with people in the community, there was a good amount of skepticism that I heard from designers, even within DID's ranks. I mean, Dwayne Edwards was saying, yeah, when I first heard about this, I was like, okay, but it can't just be all talk, So there is, I think, a healthy degree of skepticism, that around this initiative. I wonder how you guys think about it. Both of your companies joined. Tell me, what put you over the line of thinking this isn't going to be another empty gesture?
I have some thoughts, but
Sorry.
I'd like to hear from you first.
Rupal, I know you were skeptical as well. Sorry.
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
So with Pentagram, we're a collective. There's 25 partners that run this company. I'm one of them. And the skepticism wasn't really there. We were sort of clueless.
Okay.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
And we started sort of reorganizing ourselves because majority of us in New York are teachers, educators. And what we found was that, oh my God, we actually are teaching at the elite schools, all of them. Like, where are the other schools? What's going on? We don't see any black students in those.
You teach at Yale.
Exactly. We don't see any of that. So let's go to the HBCUs and focus on that. Look at the community colleges. Look at that. And so what we started to think about internally was, even with our own assessment of diversity and inclusivity, we have a consultancy called COCOL that's looking into these particular efforts for Pentagram in America. But in all honesty, we said to ourselves, okay, we'll still teach at these elite schools, but we're going to take that elite education to other schools,
right.
Through portfolios, assessments, to lectures, to mentoring. One particular example is that I mentor and donate money to Mercy College for the students to come in and be mentored week by week by myself and other partners at Pentagram. And that's, to them, they were like, oh my God, I'm getting a one-on-one in regards to all my work with these Pentagram partners. This is fantastic. And also, it's not just that, it's the idea of understanding their home life, understanding and bonding, creating a better community, building that community and a relationship over the course of time, and also seeing how they can actually get internships later on. And really building up self-esteem, really. That is a major problem, right? And you'd be surprised how conscious they are of this. And they don't think themselves much as designers, and that's not a good thing. They're exceedingly intelligent, and we need to provide them with the kit to be even better. And so the Mercy college system, which is called Connect Forward, it was set up by their professors there. What we're doing is building from 4 students started in 2019 to 8 to 16 to 32, and also expanding that out, not just for Mercy, but to other community colleges. And
Gotcha. I mean, it sounds like a lot of what you're talking about is the intent is there. It's just figuring out how to put the energy into a way that works.
You're a designer, so design it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Figure it out.
Rupal, I don't want to let you go on skepticism of that, but that is something that I heard.
You're 100% correct. I was absolutely skeptical when I first heard about it, even though when we had first learned about DID, it was through Caroline and others within Herman Miller who we really respected and knew. It wasn't about the intention. Mm-hmm. It was just that Work & Co., being a younger company, I think we kind of see ourselves as more responsible for needing to take responsibility for what companies before us have maybe missed, and legacy issues that exist. We see an opportunity to fix things and to really take a stand. And in the past, that's been around voting rights, immigrant rights, parental leave, and we've done quite a lot in all of these spaces. But when we have seen initiatives in the past, a few things that strike me as different that were encouraging to us, and it's playing out now. One, a lot of times you see initiatives that are geared around companies coming together to put a logo on a site, and there's no what's next.
Right.
A lot of times you see companies that the goal is a social media post. It's signaling, kind of intention, and it's unclear what the true actions are behind it. And what I know from DID is that as much as there was a big launch and a big press, and you wrote a story.
There's a logo, yes. Yeah.
Right before that.
But no company logo.
For a long time, many, many months before that, there were so many conversations going on that were putting me together to speak with someone from Fuse Project, from Studio O&A, from all these other partner companies that are our founding members, to begin sharing information. And so it wasn't about the announcement. Number two, we talked about actually sharing data with each other. And I think data is critical, because if we talk about numbers in terms of all these different areas that we're talking about, like hiring and retention, we're going to hold each other accountable. And number three, there is a next step, a series of next steps, ways that we can engage in the community, whether it's through the Teen Design Fair, whether it's through one another's initiatives. So as you're talking about schools and mentoring programs, the things that started to come to the fore were ways that we could either officially through DID or unofficially start to partner with each other. And these are the kinds of things I've not seen with other initiatives before that felt really encouraging, that it was about actually a long-term roadmap and long-term change, and recognizing that we absolutely can't claim to have diversity figured out. We don't, and it's going to take a lot of time. So we'll need to be here together to invest long-term.
Right. I'm curious, it's kind of a push-pull, because you want as many companies as possible involved who are serious about this, but you're also asking them to take a hard look at their own hiring practices, I assume. I mean, a lot of this is education and pipeline, but also, there are black designers out there not getting hired as much. Do you feel that people are really ready to be challenged? I mean, is this a moment where they're really ready to take a hard look at themselves?
I would say that's still on the table. To be absolute, I think larger companies, did-centric companies, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Others are trying to find the blueprint to do that.
Right.
And that's where DID comes in. And the aspects of trying to measure that and trying to improve it over the course of time, it's going to take a long time, as Paul basically stated. But, I'm encouraged in regards to this, the progress that has occurred. I mean, skepticism is a healthy thing, but we're designers, so we look at the conditions and we basically try to enhance where we were and to get to another level, and that's what we're going to do.
Right, I love what you said, design it. I mean, that's it right there. I'm curious, we don't have too much time left, but I'm curious, what are next steps? What can we expect to see coming from DID? How can people get involved?
First of all, thinking about this criticism or skepticism subject, what's been really encouraging also is, Pentagram and Work & Co. are good examples, because they were early members, and they have multiple people from each team working on the committees, right? So it's not the D&I person that's working with DID. It is throughout the companies that we're seeing involvement, and that's how we'll introduce change. So I think that's really important to include in this conversation. So here we have, during Detroit Month of Design, in about 10 days' time, we have a panel discussion, and this gives me the opportunity also to talk about some wonderful leaders that helped make DID possible. Early on, we invited 3 external advisors to help us think about what should we do, where should we go. And you mentioned Dwayne Edwards, who runs a fantastic program and school called Pensol out of Portland, Oregon. We have Forrest Young, who is at Rivian, and will be speaking the 23rd of September. And Leslie Ann Noel, who is a professor of design at the University of North Carolina. And these 3 external advisors were involved from day one in thinking about the formation of this collaborative and how we would work together. So we're working hard, as I mentioned, in committee format right now, thinking about how do we impact HBCUs. There are over 100 HBCUs in the United States, and 10 of them have any kind of design program, right? So we're interested in augmenting that number, but also looking at the curricula, right, which is Eurocentric in most cases, and you know, so really turning that on its head too, because that's part of this. There are so many elements that we're talking about and working on together. And then on the retention side, yes, it's recruitment, but it's also retention. How do we make these companies fertile grounds for the Black community rather than the opposite, where people don't feel welcomed and embraced, right? So there's a lot of work to do together, but we believe that doing this collaboratively is the answer, and we welcome anyone who's interested to ask us questions, to join. There's a great website that's designed by Work & Co., and would love to have the entire design industry involved long term. So thank you so much.
Well, sorry, we're not going to do that. We do have a couple minutes for questions. If you guys have them, we can set up a microphone. I wanted to also just say one thing I love about the initiative is that it's not just one thing or one company. I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to shout out other people who are doing work in this space that you like, Rupal. And if you have any questions, by the way, get them ready. I think we have a microphone floating around somewhere. So Rupal, sorry, go on.
Yeah, thank you for that, because that's really important. I think, first of all of us, I hope, are thinking about this in our companies, taking initiative, and also there's so many opportunities to listen, post jobs, know where we can learn more about how we can create pathways specifically for Black designers. One of my favorite podcasts is Revision Path. If you don't listen to Revision Path by Maurice Cherry, if you're not aware of that podcast, please tune in. The Where Are All the Black Designers Conference is another great event and platform also, with a Slack community, job boards. I encourage you to get involved with both of those if you already aren't.
Eddie, anyone you want to shout out?
I would like to shout out to Jem Roos, who is a professor at Mercy College. 3 years ago, the AIGA, which is your American Institute of Graphic Artists, gave her just some seed money to start off this mentoring program called Connect 4. And then the next year, they didn't respond. So I was part of the first year, and I loved it so much. I dipped into my pocket, and others did, to make it happen again, based on what we've heard today, really. And we're trying to build a platform that will last a long time and expand it right across the country with mentoring. And I feel as though that's a fantastic thing to do. So if you want to see that, you can go to connect4.net and check it out.
Caroline, anybody else? I know you have, yeah.
I see there's 1 minute, so I will just shout out 2 that come immediately to mind. But as I mentioned earlier, lots of people are working in this space, and that's encouraging. One is Maurice Woods at Microsoft, and what he's doing through the Interact program is awesome. And the second was just announced, and that is Theaster Gates and Prada, working on this design lab and giving Black students the opportunity of 3 years, I believe, with mentors and being in the corporate world, not only at Prada, at other design firms as well. It looks really terrific, and look forward to hearing more about that.
we have a question. If you wouldn't mind just saying your name and your company before you jump in.
Can you hear me? Oh,
Yeah, we got
hear
you.
me.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Joy Moyler with Joy Moyler Interiors. Thank you for being here. I just want to say that many of these companies very early on, years ago, made the commitment to support diversity within the architectural interior design industry with respect to businesses and product manufacturers and interior design and architectural firms as well. I started at Skidmore, Owings & Merrill doing architecture in 1984, and I'm 108, and you know, there was a commitment then that, of course, fell through. So I just want to add that within the, as a result of the events of the past year, diversity is a big, big word. There have been many commitments from various firms with black boxes on Instagram who have totally fallen short with their commitment. And I just want to say that I applaud your commitment, your outreach, and I really hope that we push the table to push these companies to truly doing something about it, not just putting out a little hashtag in a black box, and then 3 months later, you know, they're absolutely a dawn in the mist. So just thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Agreed. I think you guys want to add to that, but I think she said it all.
Well said.
I think we're good. Yeah, thank you, Joy.
Thank you all.
We'll come back in 3 years and see what you guys have done. All right,
Yes.
thank you guys so much.
Thank you.